Well, hello and welcome to the first of our Path to New Normal seminars. I'm delighted that Exeter Science Park is working in partnership with Devon Community Foundation, Heart of the Southwest Digital Skills Partnership, Tech Southwest, and Set Squared Exeter. These seminars will take place at 12:30 each Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and reflect the different ways that organisations in the Southwest are creating their own path to new normal. During this seminar, we will be asking a couple of questions. You have an opportunity to ask questions yourself using the question and answer tab to the right of the screen. And I'm going to be talking about what we're doing at Exeter Science Park. First of all, after this welcome, quick look at our objectives, talk about the approach that we've taken, the analysis that we've undertaken, and how we're planning to restart at the Science Park. Our objectives are quite simple. First of all, we want to create and manage a demonstrably safe and pleasant working environment and community space for our staff, clients, suppliers, and other stakeholders. We also want to achieve the COVID-19 secure standard for ESPL staff and wider stakeholders. And as part of that, we've looked through a wide variety of health and safety documents in order to make this work. So on to our approach. We created this Path to New Normal framework about 6-7 weeks ago, when we were looking to think about our own finances, our scenario planning, and we've taken that forward. Lockdown, you'll all be aware of. Restart, which we thought would be after 3 months, is really this when mass testing and tracing is available, first return to work, and a lockdown is flexed to mitigate further peaks. Recovery, which we thought would take perhaps a year, and really depend on a mass vaccination program, and then the new normal, and all clear at some point once sufficient numbers of people had been vaccinated. And we thought that would take us probably until 2022. This is linked to the government's COVID-19 recovery strategy, phase 1, phase 2, smarter controls, and phase 3, reliable treatment. We followed the Health and Safety Executive's continuous improvement model, plan, do, check, act. Plan, looking at the policy, which I've already mentioned earlier. Planning in terms of what we're going to do. The doing side, risk assessment, risk profiling, mitigation assessment, etc. Organising the work that we have to do to put that into action, and then implementing what we're going to do. As we move forward, we'll be measuring the performance of our health and safety system, investigating accidents or incidents or near misses, and reviewing that performance, learning lessons, and moving around the loop. As we go throughout this loop, we'll do it probably quite often in the initial stages, and then as things become clearer, it will slow down. Our health and safety audit has been quite extensive. It's covered our reception areas, our parking, bikes, bins and the outdoors, toilets and showers, walkways, lifts, staircases, meetings and co-working space, kitchen, canteens and kitchenettes, the service plant, post and server rooms, and other general aspects of this. This has had probably close to 80 different risks identified and mitigations for each of those risks. And each of ESPL's clients I note, is responsible for the health and safety in their own offices. So what we have done is looked at the common parts of our buildings. One of the interesting sides of this, perhaps, is to think about how service provision priorities change. So what we've got here is quality, speed, dependability, flexibility, and cost. These are parameters that help to describe the type of service that we would provide. In pre-COVID days, you would have seen quite a balance between all of those. This is the purple line here. The pink line shows the greater focus on quality, which is effectively a proxy for safety. Dependability, doing things on time, especially if we're wanting to make tables booked and ensure they're clean between, or meeting rooms booked and make sure they're cleaned between each occupant. Certainly it's not going to be as cheap as it was. Much more cleaning, much more sanitizer and stuff. We can't do things as quickly, and we won't be as flexible, certainly in the first instance. Moving on to restart. This summarizes how we're using our resources to implement our health and safety model. At the process level, I'm highlighting access control so that we think about how we bring people into the building, routing of people around the science park, advanced booking of meeting rooms, tables in the cafe, co-working space and similar, click and collect for food, extra cleaning throughout the day, and visitor management. The whole idea is to make this as easy as possible. In terms of the people side of things, we've going to set up a health and safety forum where we can work around this with our tenants. Look at consider the maximum occupancy of some of our spaces. Certainly our community spaces under social distancing will only be able to have perhaps 50 or 60 people in it at a time. And create a membership model which will allow us to look much more broadly and across the business and help people to engage with us more effectively. From a technology perspective, we already have remote control and contactless systems. Remote control for barriers, but we'll add that for doors, for management of buildings, in order to make it easier to control the systems remotely. And we'll look for contactless payment and other systems. We are also going to ensure that it's easy for people to move around the building. The NHS track and trace app is important. What we want to see is that be perhaps a little bit more mature before we open up. In terms of information, government policy and regulations underpins everything that we do. Regional policy is going to impact what we do as well. We've taken legal advice and we'll be working with our clients on their health and safety and how it impacts on us. And finally, there's a very significant physical activity that we've taken place. So, for example, we have moved access to meeting pods so that it is easier to control entrance to those. We've moved our reception and converted the mail room so that that will be safer for our front of house team. We are creating remote controlled and automatic entry doors into parts of the building so that people don't have to touch them. We have retrofitted electromagnetic hold open systems to our fire doors linked to the alarm system. And those are the sort of just the headlines for some of the changes that we're putting in place throughout the building and throughout the park. We've also given advice initially to our own staff based around quite a simple model. The line of visibility is a model that is frequently used to differentiate between front of house and back office activities. To that, we've added a line of social distancing and a line of control. So our line of visibility behind that, it's a remote working and people in the office. The safety measure is physical separation. Behind this line of social distancing, it's about physical barriers, perspex screens, for example, and social distancing to protect our front of house team, our cafe staff, and manage necessary face-to-face interactions. Then the line of control, where we're visible, but we might need to become closer to people. Still, potential measures include PPE. And then outside, off our property, in client offices, for example, it'll come down to risk assessments and physical separation. We know that this is not going to be terribly straightforward at times. We will start with bringing in our on-site members, try to establish at this point how we can make sure our processes and systems are robust from a safety perspective at that point, make sure that we know that everything is working as it should be. We will then add off-site booked members and visitors so that we gradually increase footfall and understand how to manage that. And finally, at some point in the future, we would let casual off-site visitors return as they have done to date. This changing things a little, testing a lot, keeping working through the plan, do, check, act model is going to be key for us to maintain and manage safety at Exeter Science Park. Perhaps one of the biggest challenges is to think about how to respond to the varying alert levels. Government has issued 5 alert levels, 1 to 5, and we are apparently at around level 4 at the moment, perhaps moving towards level 3. What we don't really have is any information about what we would need to do for level 2 or level 1 in terms of government guidance. So what we will be needing to do is to adapt. We might expect, for example, that we get to level 3 or level 2, but a second peak, for example, could take us back up to level 4. So we're going to have to flex the level of service and the access to the science park as we go through those different levels. I'm going to stop at this point. That's a pretty quick overview, which is the purpose of these lunchtime talks. Delighted to take your questions. Thank you. Okay, so I've got a question here from Michael Watts. I'd be interested to know what impact your point of membership under implementation people is intended to have. Really, the intent of that is to manage access to the park, manage all the other co-working things that we have to do on a daily basis. Also to probably open up an intranet type model, but we want to make that available not only to all organisations on the park, but to gateway compliant organisations off the park, and indeed non-gateway compliant associates off the park. I hope that helps, Michael. Other questions from Paul. How do you intend... Paul just said ignore it. We will see what happens in those particular mapping our response. Just to look at the polls, how ready is your organisation to open its place of work? It's very interesting. We've got one organisation here that said we never closed. 6 partially open, and the remaining organisations, remaining responses, 8 of them either preparing to open or starting to prepare to open. This appears to be looking at the poll around health and safety responsibilities, that there is a strong understanding of health and safety responses. 13 out of the 19, out of the 20 here have said, yes, we're aware. 6 say maybe, and 1 says no. I hope some of this has gone some way to help on that. And in terms of, does this give you confidence that we are aiming to provide a demonstrably safe and pleasant working environment? I'm really pleased to see that we appear to have got full marks at this point. So really at this point, any other questions? Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thank you. I hope you've appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed it. The next meeting is lifelong digital learning in a digital age. What don't you know? Please register for that on Wednesday. Thank you very much indeed for your time today. Have a great lunch.